When you talk about inspiration, the way I inspire people, first of all, is with my work, because it wasn't great work, I'm full of shit. And telling them that you have to be courageous to do innovative work. You could be cautious, or you could be creative, but there's no such thing as a cautious creative. My father came to this country in 1907 when he was 13 years old. Didn't have a job, didn't know the language, didn't even have any schooling when he was in Greece. By the time he was 20 years old, he had a florist. He was the best dressed man you ever saw in your life. Married another Greek immigrant. It was the American dream. I was lucky to be a son to two people like that. I mean, they taught me how to work. They taught me how to be good to people. They taught me how to be everything in life. When I was delivering flowers to my father, anytime I went anywhere near the Whitney Museum or the Metropolitan Museum of Art, I would sneak in for half an hour and I would immerse myself with all kinds of art. But from the time I was 5, 6 years old, I have Greek books where I have drawings all over the books. Any chance I had, I would draw and get up every night of my life and draw for 2.5 hours and then go back to sleep. I used to sleep 4 hours a night all my life, And I would get up and draw, I was about to graduate in 1945. I was the school's artist. And there was an art teacher back then. One morning she came to me, she said, George, go to the High School of Music and Art, take a test, because that's where you're going to go to high school. And she was my first grade mentor because she recognized my talent. When I got to the High School of Music and Art, I had never done any designing as such. It was just drawing. And the first class was like an abstract design course in the sense that, you got a piece of paper, 18 by 24, and you had pieces of paper you could cut out, and said, okay, today, do a design of triangles any way you want to do it. And the next day, do a design of squares and circles, and do a design of this and that. And after about 6 weeks, the teacher, Mr. Patterson, said, okay, here's an 18 by 24 sheet of paper. You will do a design on rectangles. And everybody went to work, and everybody got, new scissors, and they're doing this. And I sat there with the 18 by 24, and I just looked out the window. And after an hour or so, and he starts picking up everybody's work, and he comes up to mine, and I said, we went to grab it, and I said, hold it. And I wrote G. Lois in the corner of an 18 by 24 rectangle, right? He didn't get it. He just took it like this and was still, I remember saying, oh my God, he didn't understand it. And the next morning, 3 or 4 teachers came up to me and said, George, what you did for Mr. Patterson was sensational. That was so incredible. So what I had taught myself, and it was the lesson of my life, I created my own epiphany, was anytime there's an assignment to work on anything, your answer has to be innovative, shocking, mind-blowing. So I enrolled at Pratt Institute. Then I ran into my second incredible mentor, a great man, an instructor by the name of Herschel Levitt. After about 3 or 4 classes, he called me down to see him, and he said, why are you in school? I said, well, I'm trying to become a designer. And he said, oh. And he writes out the name of a phone number and a name of Reba Socius, and he sends me to Reba Socius, who was the second woman named in our Directors Hall of Fame. She was a tough, wonderful woman. She's the one that got me to understand typography. And after 6 months of work with Reba Socius, the Korean War was going on, and I got drafted, and they sent me to Korea. I got out of the Army. I don't know, I came back with a chip on my shoulder, I'm just ready to kick ass, you know. And Reba Associates wanted me a partner. I didn't want, she said, well, George, then what do you want to do? I said, I really want to work at CBS television. That was the beginning of the CBSI. She sent me to Lou Dorsman, who was at CBS Radio, and I go in with the work I had done for Reba. He said, hey, kid, you know, you're good, you're really good. He didn't have a job for me, but he said, let me call Bill Golden. He'll give you a job. Called up Bill, sent me over to Bill Golden, 2 blocks away. He looks at my work, he hires me. And Lou Dorsman became, you know, I can't say he was my father, but he was father-like to me. And mentored me and watched me all the way through my career. So I get a requisition for an ad for Gunsmoke. And you know, they have a photography studio of CBS photographs, and I found a photograph of a guy, a drawing his weapon, you know, a cowboy, and another one from behind of a guy like this. And I placed it so that legs spread, and through his legs, there's a guy drawing on him, and I did it. And I went to a secretary, and I said, I'd like to see Mr. Golden. And I show it to him, and he says, that's terrific. I'm gonna call the producers, and they should do an opening of the show like this. Terrific, George.
Gunsmoke.
And there couldn't be nobody better in the world than Rick Associates, Bill Golden, and then the next great person I worked for, Herb Llewellyn, you know, who I loved like a brother. And then Bill Bernbach. People don't really understand the history of Doyle Dane Bernbach and the creation of the first creative agency. Bill Bernbach had this epiphany, and the epiphany was, hey, if a copywriter worked with a terrific art director, you could do better advertising, you know. The respect Bill gave to art directors was unbelievable. When I was there, and it wasn't there long, but I gotta tell you, it was magical. Bob Gage, Bill Taubin, Helmut Krohn, and me in a row. Murderer's row. I mean, I said that were the 4 greatest art directors ever in the business working together next to each other. I mean, I was so thrilled working with 3 guys like that. Bill was a great creative director that inspired everybody, you know. When I left Doyle Dane Bernbach, crazily, Bill Bernbach said to me, George, please come back when you fail, you know. And, you know, we started Pat King Lois in the first week of 1960, and we were hotter than Doyle Dane a couple of months later. Starting that second creative agency was the spark of the creative revolution. It was out of our agency came Carl Alley, Scally and McCabe, and Sloves came out of our agency. Dick Rich came out of our agency and joined with Mary Wells. And maybe those 4 or 5 agencies did maybe 0.1% of all of advertising in America, but that was the advertising people were talking about.
Of course. Remember, there's an inherent beauty in soup cans that Michelangelo could not have imagined existed.
Talkative Andy Warhol and Gabby Sonny Liston always fly Braniff. They like our girls, they like our food, they like our style, and they like to be on time. Thanks for flying Braniff, fellas.
When you got it, flaunt it.
Braniff International, when you got it, flaunt it.
So we had successes, really big, fast, hot successes. Boom, 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 boom.
America, demand your MTV! I want my MTV!
I want my MTV.
I want my MTV! MTV?
And of course, everybody was talking about those. Did you see that commercial? Everybody was watching the same thing. Everybody was watching it, and you were part of the culture, so much a part of the culture. You gotta understand something. To this day, people say, I mean, the recognition of the covers, et cetera, just get bigger and bigger, you know. But people say, boy, you know, you had some pale ball doing these covers. I said, no, I didn't. It was Harold Hayes. I get a call from him, and I didn't know who he was. I mean, I knew he was the editor of Esquire. And he said, can we have lunch? And I thought he was really looking for my agency to take advertising space or something. And he said, I wonder if you could help me. I said, sure. I wonder if you could help me figure out how to do better magazine covers. He said, well, how would I do it? He said, well, you got to go outside and get somebody a great graphic designer. And he said, wait a minute, pal. Wait a minute. You got to do me one cover. I said, okay, I'll do you one cover. I sent it to him, and I'm not hearing from him. And finally, I get a phone call 3 in the afternoon. He said, George, I never saw a magazine cover like this in my life. I said, no shit. What my covers did is it said, holy shit, this is some magazine. It got people to really read it and circulate. Well, the one that, the Ali, St. Sebastian, I mean, I can't get away from it. It's the most important cover because I think it was a game changer. Because Dr. King had made a deal with LBJ that he was not going to come out against the war in any way, shape, or form. And he saw that cover and he said, that's enough. And 2 days later, he came out and he said things about the war that Ali never said.
The promises of the Great Society have been shot down on the battlefield of Vietnam.
It changed the anti-war movement. And that's why when people say today, why can't there be George Lois covers? Because there's no Harold Hayes. There would never have been Esquire covers, my Esquire covers, it wasn't him. You kidding? And that period was called, and is called, the golden age of journalism. My wife, Rosemary, I mean, everything I've ever done, I show it to her, or sometimes I say, what do you think of this? And sometimes she says, she gives me a copy line. You know, I mean, she's into it. I had a woman who didn't bust my balls about working late, but she understood the work was meaningful and wasn't just advertising, it was changing the culture.